Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions, or maybe for the first time if you're new here. Tonight, we are holding a Session 0 for a very brand new campaign here on the channel called Evermore le Masquerade. This is going to be a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign that takes place in a homebrew world of mine called Rostveen. I have run a number of campaigns on the channel that take place in that same world, but this will be in an entirely separate kingdom from those. This one is known as Gerdes. We'll get more into the specifics of that and stuff in just a moment, but yeah, first of all, I'm going to warn everyone the same way that I typically do before all of my games. If adult subject matter and bad language are issues for you, then you should not watch really anything on my channel, honestly. But specifically this campaign. There's going to be a lot of sexuality in this game. There's going to be a lot of innuendo. So if that's the kind of thing that makes you squeamish or bothers you, then honestly, no hard feelings. We'll see you later. I'm going to pass things over to 4 of my players so that they can introduce themselves, plug anything that they'd like to plug, give any kind of other content warnings, I guess, that they might want to, and then we'll start this session 0. So we're going to start with Kenya.
I was not ready for that. Hi, I'm Kenya. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to plug. You can find me at twitch.tv, AcerSin. I run a Sunday game, just the one for right now, and then I do random other gaming things when I do them. And then that, you can find me in the chats of all the various channels, MTD, AppTab, all that kind of stuff. Supporting everyone and super excited, really anxious. I'm really flattered and honored to be here, so thank you, Jeremy. And I am really interested in seeing what we're all going to build together. So, yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Kenya. And yeah, I'm happy to have you in the game. I think you're going to be a fantastic addition. And I know, based on what we've already discussed with your character and stuff, that you're absolutely going to fit into this game. These characters, I'm telling you, this is it is a unique type of situation with this campaign. I'm very eager to peel back the layers on this and see where this is all going to go. All right, next up is Matt.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt. I run a YouTube channel called A Fistful of Dice, and I make RPG stuff over at Absolute Tabletop. This is my second Jeremy Lilly campaign. I'm hot off the Two Hemispheres campaign, and I have brought a very different type of character to the table. So very excited to explore this region of your world, Jeremy, and just play with these players. So yeah, I'm pumped. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And again, thank you, Matt, for rejoining us for your second campaign here on the channel. Yeah, Convergence was a ton of fun, and I'm excited to see what we might get up to in this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, Em.
Hi everyone, I'm Em, and I run, the YouTube, Twitch. You can find me anywhere under Dice on Ice, and we're doing a Cursive Strahd campaign, which has turned out to be a villains campaign, which is great. I'm not angry at that. That's amazing. So check that out if you like the spooky stuff. And I will be playing Sylvie, and I am so excited. I have been wanting to play in a game like this for forever, and so I can't think of a better DM and better players to play it with. So I am beyond excited for this game.
It's exceptionally kind of you to say, Em. Thank you, and I'm happy to have you again, as always. Yeah, this campaign has been brewing and building in my mind for a long time because of the nature of this culture. I've always been very hesitant to want to publicly run a game that's set in it, but I am very comfortable with the players that we've collected for this game, and the way that all of you have handled all the subject matter and stuff while building your characters thus far. So I fully trust you, and I'm really excited. So, speaking of really excited, but not sure about the subject matter, Austin.
Amazing, as always, with the segues. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm psyched to be here. I have never had anything short of the best time in a Jeremy Lilly game, and two of the best campaigns I've ever played in. So I can't wait to see what you do with this concept. And it's been a lot of fun getting to build a character for such a different kind of world, with such a different kind of focus. And so I'm excited to see how this comes together, because I love this group of players, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where everybody takes all the things that we've talked about so far, because these are some interesting characters, and there's going to be some interesting ties and some rivalries, and we will see what happens.
I cannot wait. And again, always excited to have you on the channel, Austin. So thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this, all of you. And our fifth player, who was not able to join us this evening, will be Karen Davies. She'll be over here behind the curtain. But hopefully next month, whenever we kick off with session 1, she will be able to be here with us. But until then, we miss you, Karen, and I hope that you're doing well. Let's see here. Anybody who mentioned a channel, by the way, you should be able to find the link for that in the description of this video down below. Please do take the time to go check out their stuff. All of them are not only phenomenal people and fantastic players, but they're all fantastic creators in their own right. Even if they don't have a channel. Looking at you, Austin. Yeah, so session 0 for this campaign. What are we going to do? Talk over the social contract first and foremost. I've played with all of you before, so I know that all of you understand the etiquette for online playing and all of that kind of stuff already. But, you know, obviously mute when you don't talk. You take turns, you know, all the stuff that kind of goes without saying. But here we are anyways. We're going to be using the honor system, so if you want to roll digital dice or physical dice, whatever, it doesn't matter. I trust all of you. So whatever makes you comfortable and floats your boat. All of you are very good about this, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it anyways. Try to look for places where you can shine the spotlight around to other player characters. I want scenes between characters. That's one of the things that I really love about these heavy narrative games, is when there's a lot of even intense role-playing between characters. So I'm definitely looking for moments where somebody takes the initiative to kind of start a conversation with another player character or with an NPC. That's the kind of stuff I live for. So let's do it. House rules. There's several house rules that we're going to be using for this game. I'm going to switch over to the campaign doc so that I can read them. I don't think we have to go into too much detail about it just yet, but criticals. Most of you have played in a D&D campaign of mine before, so you know how I typically do crits, and again, it doesn't take but a second to remind you how I handle it in the moment. But you're going to take the maximum results of all of your dice plus your modifiers, and then you're going to roll your dice and add your modifiers a second time. Add all of that together, and that's how crits are going to roll. We are going to be using a mini game, a subsystem, I guess you would call it, for handling duels. And these rules were based upon a series of rules that was written by our very own Matt Click for his Hyperspace D6 game for running kick-ass lightsaber fights. And I am borrowing heavily from that and switching things up just a little bit so that it works with 5th edition. And I'm really excited for somebody to throw down a glove. I want to see that work. I introduced a new fighting style, fighting with a cloak. So if you're a paladin or a fighter or a ranger, you can choose that as one of your fighting styles. Inspiration. Inspiration can stack up to 4 points at a time. And you can use them for things other than just advantage and disadvantage. If there's a place where you think that you might have an argument for kind of pushing the rules a little bit, but it's technically outside of the system, then you can offer a point of inspiration as a meta currency to trade with me. And if I think that it's worth a point of inspiration, maybe 2, then we can make a deal and make it happen. Things like taking an extra reaction to dive to the cliff to save somebody who's falling, that kind of stuff. I would much rather you guys use them in creative ways than for them to just sit there and collect dust. Likewise, please, if you think that one of your fellow players deserves a point of inspiration for something, call it out, nominate them for me. I don't always catch it. I try to, and I try to assign them frequently, but there's a lot of times when I get caught up in the moment and I completely forget about what's going on, or I'm dealing with tech issues. That's usually the case. So please just feel free to nominate. We are going to be using poisons quite a bit, probably in this campaign, and poisons as written for 5th edition kind of suck. Sorry. But there's a fantastic supplement that I found on the DM's Guild called, very creatively, Poisons for 5th edition. It's by Matthew Eckhart, and it's a fantastic little book. It has a lot of different poisons and some creative rules for incorporating them a little bit better in your games. Potions. Drawing and quaffing a potion will be a bonus action altogether. So, chug a chug. Skill challenges, minions, and mini games. Skill challenges and minions aren't typically a 5th edition thing, but I will be using them in the campaign in addition to other little subsets and things like that, like the duel rules, when the time comes up. I'll do my best to try to explain how the rules are going to work whenever we kind of step into that little side game, mini game. But as always, anytime there are questions or concerns about anything, just please voice it. Don't hesitate at all, and we will try to make it work. Fix anything that needs to be fixed. In addition, also spellcasting. You can cast a bonus action spell and a full action spell in the same round. One of them does not have to be a cantrip. I think that is a very stupid rule. I've never understood it, and so it's gone. In addition, safety tools that we are going to have in place. We've already been setting up our lines and veils. Lines are things that you are not comfortable with at all appearing in the game. These are lines that won't be crossed by anybody, including myself. And veils are things that you would rather not become the focus. You're all right with it maybe being mentioned or kind of being something that colors an encounter or a scene, but you don't want it to become front and center. And in addition, paired with the lines and veils, we're also going to be using the red light, green light rule set. So I'll check in with you occasionally, or even if I don't check in, if you feel that a situation is kind of growing into uncomfortable territory for you, please feel free to just type yellow in our side chat, yellow light, or just say it if you want. And that is going to be a signal for the rest of us to kind of pump the brakes and ease off, maybe redirect things in a different way. And if it's already crossed that line for you and you need it to stop, then just say red light or type red light. And we will find a way to end what we're doing and move on to something else, shift things. So I want everybody to be comfortable. That's one of the best ways to enjoy the game, as well as to get really great roleplay, is for everyone to be comfortable. So I definitely want to do what I can to make things comfortable for all of you as players, as well as for myself. So yeah, that covers house rules as well as our safety tools. I know I'm going really fast, but does anybody have any questions so far about any of this? Comments? No? Cool. Sweetness. All right. So, what is the world of Rosfin? What is Gerdes like in particular? So, Rosfin is somewhat of a kitchen sink fantasy setting. I've been building it off and on for about 20 years now, and there wasn't any clear direction in the beginning. It was all just kind of everything goes. But over the years, I've started trying to put a stronger emphasis on the various different corners in the world of Rosfin. And one of the staples of Rosfin has become these little corners being based on real world histories, real world cultures. Some of them are combined with one another into like weird amalgamations, but all of them are twisted and bent in some way to kind of make them more high fantasy, more Dungeons and Dragons. But the history, the mythology, the culture, all of those things are very fascinating to me about real world existing peoples. And I really thoroughly enjoy building stories in these kinds of settings and finding ways to strike that balance between true history and mythology and folklore. So, Gerdes in particular is based largely on the Baroque periods of Spain, France, and Venice, mainly. There's also going to be a lot of influence from the Orlais area, from the Dragon Age franchise. And obviously, I am not a historian, and these are not going to be historically accurate in any way. If you speak a Latin language, I'm very sorry, because I'm going to butcher the absolute fuck out of it. And it's going to be all over the place. So, if that's the kind of thing that twists your knickers, then see the above announcement. Yeah, there's not going to be any firearms or gunpowder in the setting, even though it was kind of around in that period of history. But there's going to be plenty of masks and lavish parties, political intrigue, swashbuckling sword fights, duels at dawn, and lots of sex. So, let's talk about sex. Thank you, Salt and Pepper. A prominent member, see, it starts already. Prominent member, the fuck? A prominent feature of the stories set in this era and genre revolve around flirtation, innuendo, love, and sex. These things are usually celebrated in a sex-positive way, but they can also be the catalyst for a lot of challenges, intrigue, and complications from these tales. For me, human sexuality and how it fits into a society has always been a very fascinating subject for me. And I know that not everyone has the same level of comfort with this topic that I do. So, like I said earlier, this is why I've waited for so long to run this kind of a campaign. There's a real danger with this game veering into uncomfortable territory. And I am hyper aware of that fact. And I knew that I needed a group of players that first and foremost trusted me, who were going to be comfortable with the subject matter and with one another, and whom I could trust to not take it too far. So just as the characters in the setting in these kinds of stories are constantly walking that razor's edge between social wit and inappropriate debauchery, that's our goal, is to never have it venture into the squicky and weird, but to just kind of get to the point where it's very clear that there's very little that's not understood in the conversation, particularly like with fun turns of phrase, innuendo, that kind of thing. I think everybody understands what that means, but all of that being said, at no point in this game will there be explicit sex. We'll hint to it and then fade to the window. We'll wake up in a bedroom and there will be people lying in bed, awaking, in the morning, that kind of thing. There's never going to be a description of actual intercourse. So if that disappoints you, sorry, but it is what it is. Member comment.
Check out my upcoming YouTube channel where it's just graphic descriptions of
That's gonna
explicit
be
sex.
that's gonna
That's
be on
gonna
the
be my channel when I
OnlyFans.
actually have one.
That's my OnlyFans live play channel. Although I guess not anymore.
No, they went back on it all. You can do it again now. They turned it all around.
Sweet. I have no idea.
Everybody started leaving and they freaked out because they were losing money. So,
Huh.
I'll pull up a
They'll
Tumblr.
try again next year.
Yeah. It's like when Playboy magazine said they were going to stop publishing nude photos. I'm like, what's left? Like, you're going to just print the cover?
the articles,
Advertisements?
Jeremy.
Everyone said they were reading it for the articles anyway. We figured that was all we needed.
Yep. I think it lasted all of like 6 months, and they're like, okay, we were just kidding. Just kidding, everybody. Anyways, so about any of that, are there any questions or concerns or comments from any of you? No. All right. Cool.
I mean, I'm concerned that I'm not witty enough to do good wordplay in the moment, but we'll see what happens. I don't think that's anything you can help with.
It's definitely not. I'm going to be doing my best to to stay afloat on my own. You got to find your own flotation device, sir.
Yeah, have fun playing every other character inhabiting the world that we talk to.
It's that threat of pushing it too far, that is very real in my mind. Like, I am very afraid of that. But it's my channel. I figure if anybody's going to do it, it's okay that it's me, and we'll just take that as it comes. So shut up, Austin. Cool. Let's see, what do we got going on in the chat here? We got a bunch of people tuning in. It's happy to see everybody. Sex sells, I'm telling you. Here's proof. Cool. Let's see. Let's do character introductions. Get you guys talking on the mic a little bit here. So let's introduce your characters, include anything that you feel is noteworthy for people to know up front. Maybe touch on some of the PC connections if you'd like. Just, whatever comes to mind. Let's hear about who we're going to be meeting in this game. Not all at once, though. Please. Pace yourselves.
I'll go first. I can do it. So my character, I'm going to be playing Loxley LaCroix, who goes by Lox to his friends. And Loxley is a half-orc fighter, Eldritch Knight, with a noble background, which we'll be exploring in the campaign, I'm sure. But Loxley is a bit of a he's very much like a social butterfly. He's one of these gigantic mirths and gigantic melancholy type characters where he experiences and outwardly shows great joy, but also great sorrow at times. And so he can tend to be a little bit of an up and down type personality. He is a swordsman, duelist, and he also has some minor but potent arcane abilities that he attributes to his heritage. It's something that runs in his family, but that has skipped a few generations, and so he's kind of the first in a long while that has access to these abilities. He is not necessarily what he seems. He has spent an equal amount of time in the courts of nobles and the dens of thieves. He has some less than savory skills acquired over a somewhat nomadic life. And according to him, this is at least what he tells people, he is returning now to the city of Aladago because he is originally from here, but he has been gone for I think a couple of decades at this point. He's also he's missing his left eye, and there are lots of different stories that he tells about how this happened, and he rarely tells the same story twice. I had some really gorgeous art done of Locksley that I will likely share at some point here, but he if we're talking physical description here, he is a very dashing looking half-orc man, athletic build, but not huge, not broad, sort of a lithe figure. He wears lots of purples and golds. He tends to favor those colors, and they complement his somewhat turquoise skin favorably. He has sort of swept back, jet black, nearly purple hair that is sort of streaked with gleaming silver, and he has this very sharp, smart goatee with kind of waxed mustache ends that just curl up just slightly and sort of mirror the tiny little sort of tusks that jut up from his lower mandible. He's very handsome. And he is aware that he is handsome, but he's also aware that he is a dangerous individual and can come off as a somewhat untrustworthy individual. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going to stop talking for a bit.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, the art that you had done is so fantastic. Like I'm a huge fan of art. Anybody who watches any of my games understands that. I use art constantly for inspiration. And I have a ton of it saved for this campaign in particular. And going through and finding pictures to represent kind of what's already building in my mind, or finding things just to kind of jump off from, is always such a great moment for me as a creator. And having bespoked art for a character is just, it's one of the best feelings in the world, honestly. Kind of seeing all of that mental design kind of brought to life in a different way than you could ever do, well, than I could ever do. So yeah, I'm really, really excited that you had that done. Yeah, he's a super interesting character. I'm really happy with a lot of the things that we've talked over for Lox, and the way that you have woven some of his story into what I have planned, or what I had planned. So I'm really eager to kind of work through his story arc and include a lot of the things that you have given me, and hopefully surprise you along the way. Very excited. All right, who's next?
I can go. So my character is Sylvie Levin, who is an artificer, human artificer, seamstress, who makes beautiful and protective garments for the members of the city of Aladalgo, and she has aspirations that one day she will make the garments of kings and queens, and yeah, and she is quite eager and quite she has ambitious, that's the word. She's very ambitious to try and get to the top with her gowns. And something that she is perhaps her downside is she loves secrets. She loves hearing about people and seeing people for a moment without their mask. and seeing their true selves, seeing their what they look like, you know, unclothed, both maybe metaphorically and literally sometimes. But she will often trade in secrets. So if perhaps you buy a gown and can pass along something very very informative to her, perhaps your garment will come with some extra gold filigree or some extra button work and lacing when she hands it to you. Yeah, that's Sylvie.
That's fantastic. So I imagine that like Sylvie's shop is probably this place, almost like a hair salon, where it's just constant with gossip, the latest news about whatever that is going on. That's really cool. I like that. And yeah, the artificer thing, being like a garment maker, like a seamstress, is just such a great fit. And it's clothing, and tailored clothing in particular, are such a key element of this genre of storytelling that I'm really excited that somebody has tapped into a way to work that into the story on a regular basis. Again, I'm very eager. There's already a couple of things that I have planned. There might even be a little bit in the very first session. So I'm really excited to uncover her character's personality. Yeah, I'm so excited. My ideas have been just spilling out of my face for like a month, and I can't even I can't even describe how anxious and excited I am to get this story underway. But okay, yeah, who's next?
I'll go next. I am playing Vera Marion Wynn Messinero. She is a human bard. She is basically she's not the owner, but she runs the Castillo de Fugida, which is basically a extremely nice, she's management of this, well, it's a whorehouse, but it's a fancy one. And, so the owner is spending her twilight years, it's an aging woman, I just refer to her as the madam. She's spending her twilight years kind of out traveling the world, and while she's gone, Vera's in charge, and Vera's just, she's a bard. She's very she wants to battle words and battle wits, and she can be found at the playhouse doing an assortment of things. She has probably been in a large number of the beds that are in the city, or at least had members of those beds in hers at the Castillo. She, she's a courtesan. Exactly. Yep. She's a courtesan. And yeah, I mean, she's a high class whore, but she's fancy about it. So that's like, there's a lot more to her, but it kind of starts to get into her story and stuff and etc. So I kind of don't have a whole lot to tell up front. She does have a little bit of an issue with Austin's character over there. They both occasionally end up at the playhouse together and have extremely different ideas on how and why one should perform at the playhouse. So they can kind of come into conflict about that every once in a while. She loves to entice emotion out of people, and she loves the idea of watching those who are watching her fall in love with her, or cry because of something she's doing, or become enraged because of the way she's spinning her words. And so she very much loves this push and this pull of emotion, and she uses that to her advantage in her other employment areas. So yeah, that's where she's at.
Excellent. And again, like talking about something that is a staple of the genre and the setting, courtesans are front and center in pretty much every single story that you read that takes place in this kind of era. So I'm also very excited to have a player who's tapped into that world as a part of the main party. So yeah, just so much, and I don't. It's hard to contain it all. Kind of like a bodice. No. Next up, Austin. Why don't you introduce us to Guillaume?
Okay. So
Guillaume?
I will be playing Guillaume de l'Estote, and he is the kind of lazy layabout rich kid of the group. So maybe not lazy. That might not be the right word. He's highly motivated, but not in terms of like finding work. He is an arrogant nobleman's son. His father is teaches at the university in the city, and is basically a viscount. Viscount. I don't pronounce that, but so he's a lesser nobleman. And oh geez, I had a bunch of things ready to say and then I got put on the spot. All right, so he spends a lot of his time at the playhouse. He like Kenya was saying, he's got a different idea to Vera about how plays should be done. He tends to be more about studying the role, getting into character. He doesn't necessarily care what the audience thinks or how much of a good time they're having. Although he does want to be the center of attention and get all the cheers. So he tends to keep his hair very short. He looks similar-ish to his father, who has got like short. They both got like short brown hair. He keeps his hair short for all the wigs that he has to put on at the playhouse, and he keeps himself completely shorn in case he needs to put on some sort of fake beard for a role. He likes dressing up for the roles. That's a big part of it for him. He is a wizard. He is, fairly early in his studies of that, but he is also kind of a perpetual university student. Since his father teaches there and is a nobleman, he kind of spends a lot of his time just studying things and attending classes for no reason. But in his off time, he does a number of other things that I'm sure we'll get into. But yes, he's a petty man who is generally fairly quick to jealousy, and I'm excited as hell to see what he's like. Also, I have no idea what his accent is yet because I can't figure out if I want to do a French accent for an indeterminate amount of time, because there's quite a lot that goes into that, and it might make it even more difficult to try to create and craft the word play. But we will see what happens. It's the haughtiest accent I could come up with.
It's fantastic, honestly. I could definitely have you do that for the interim of the campaign. I would be perfectly happy. Especially as
one
a
more
wizard.
thing I should note about him, as Loxley locks to his friend, Guillaume would be Guy to his enemies. If you really want to piss him off, that's a real great way. He's not a fan of the nickname.
Make a note real quick.
Yeah, I'm also gonna just take a quick note of that here.
And there's the first glove.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah. Likewise, like all of these characters, you guys have just done such a great job of picking something within the genre, something within this setting, and really kind of diving in. And that makes me excited because we're going to have the opportunity to explore a lot of these aspects in a deeper way than we could if it was just like an unrelated faction or an unrelated thing that was happening in the background. So yeah, I'm super thrilled with who you've all chosen to play, and and again, like all of you just really understand what I'm going for with the setting, and the whole little tagline about to be Gerdessi is to always wear a mask. I'm excited that all of your characters have a lot going on in the background, and eager to see how that's going to come out and play. Speaking of all of that, I know that I've asked a lot of you as players, connections, secrets, entries for the cope list, and the safety tools, the dread style questionnaires, all of that kind of stuff. I know that it's a lot of homework, and it's very tedious, but it really does provide me with a very firm network of potential hooks and incentives for me to draw from constantly for material for the game. And it means that I'm always able to firmly root your characters into the events of the story that I'm trying to tell. So thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, because it gives me a ton of material to pull from that I know is going to resonate. So yes, thank you. And for that, all of you, please take your first point of inspiration. I know many of you probably do not have your characters on paper yet. I will try to remind you that you have one, but if you are taking notes, then write it down.
Let me just
let's
say
see.
real quick. Can I say real quick?
Absolutely.
I love the questionnaire process. I say it every single time. It is so good. There are questions in there that make me go, oh, that's a part of my backstory? Okay. Like how? And that is the best feeling, where it's like, you don't want to be like, I love being able to reactively create things. And that is where I work best, I think. And so being given like, here's a seed of an idea. Okay, I'm going to take that seed. I'm going to give you I'm going to let it grow a little bit. And then like, now I want to see how you like trim the hedge, and it's just really interesting. I really enjoy that.
Good. I'm very glad that you do. It's something that I've used in my last several campaigns, and it's always yielded very good fruit, in my opinion. Stuff that has been wonderful to work with. And from my experience, it also gives the players a very solid foundation of where to start playing their character. Because you come preloaded with some reactions and some history built in. You understand a little bit about who this person is based on the way they've reacted to things in their past. If there's a story about them having murdered someone in their past, how they dealt with the body is an important question, and it informs a lot of things going forward playing the character. One of the most profound exercises that we did in theater was our director for a show had us write letters to a loved one in our character. So we had to figure out who we were going to address it to, what we were going to say, how we were going to frame what was going on in the course of the play, and think about all of that through the mindset of our character. And it really did a wonderful job of getting me out of my own head and putting me into the head of a completely different person. And this is something that I have found has a very similar result for role-playing games. So I'm very glad that that you're enjoying the process, even if it is tedious. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about this far? Anything that they want to bring up before this campaign kind of starts? Anything you want to try to establish aside from what we've already learned?
I was hoping to. Oh, sorry. I was hoping to chat maybe about some possible character connections. I have a good idea
Absolutely.
of why and how Loxley would know all of you, and it sounds like the kind of the hub that the spokes will kind of connect us is this very nice whorehouse that we spend time at. And so I imagine that might be how Loxley came to know all of you, but also the interesting idea that he is kind of new in town to some extent. He's returned after a long time away, and so he might not be as ingrained with connections and stuff like that. So I'd love to talk that out.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
Yeah, I think Guillaume would be like always on the lookout for the new interesting person coming to town. And would have like immediately latched on like, oh, you are coming to my party. Like we must be friends. Like, and just immediately like with no like room for hesitation was just like, oh yes, you are my friend now. Like you look interesting, and like may have even said like, you look interesting. Come with me. Like
right. And I think that Loxley would probably be very accustomed to this like model of person, this type of person, and recognize not only the usefulness and utility of having somebody like that I can kind of like go to parties with and like kind of make connections and get introduced to different people, but also recognizing the fact that you are at least outwardly some kind of magic user, and he would probably take some interest in that as well, having arcane abilities himself. So I imagine that it would probably start as a connection of sort of like, we have stuff to gain from each other, and then it might grow from there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, but like Guillaume is probably very well like affixed into society. He seems to be the kind that's very ingratiated or ingrained, whatever, both. Why not? Into like the high society.
Definitely like he attempts to be like a society player. Like that's kind of his like his current sort of job almost is like, how can I like his obsession is learning, but his job is social climbing. Like the Playhouse is a way to do that.
I have another assignment for you, Austin. I talked about this a little last Thursday with Jake, but as part of the research that I was doing for this game, I read the Wikipedia entry on Casanova. You really need to read. It is unbelievable, the kinds of things that he did in his lifetime. Undoubtedly, he was probably a massive piece of shit, but the things that he managed to accomplish in his lifetime are it reads like a movie, and it sounds very much like you and his character might have more than just a few things in common. So you might find some inspiration there.
Amazing, finding out that my character sounds a whole lot like the person whose name is synonymous with like womanizing bastard.
Yep. But in addition, he's also like one of the only people who recorded like what life was like in that history. So his memoirs are like used as a factual look at the era, because he also globetrotted. He went all over Europe, and I mean it's truly a fascinating read, honestly.
I will absolutely read that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that having a budding kind of relationship, perhaps, with Lox and Guillaume. So Guillaume is quick to make friends. Is he quick to lose friends?
Oh, yeah. In general, I would say that like I haven't built the character mechanically yet, but I have the impression that he's actually not particularly charismatic, and he's not a very likable. So like at the current time, like you spend enough time around him, you realize how self-centered and arrogant he is. And like people kind of drift out of his orbit once they stop being useful or stop like being able to put up with him and for how useful he is.
That makes perfect sense. I've known people like that. Quite a few. I'm related to a few.
So I didn't say anything about what Vera looks like when I was talking about her, which I should have, and I just didn't. She's fairly tall for a woman. She's probably 5'8", 5'9". Dresses very voluptuously, but she does this really interesting mix of, she'll have a wonderful corset on with, boobs stacked up to the high heavens and stuff, but then she'll also have on very well done and well tailored, like almost feminine version of men's pants. So she does this very kind of mix of male female clothing as she's always moving in and out of. I would actually think that she probably would know M's character just based on a fashion clothing, at the Castillo, they're always looking for new and interesting articles of clothing. And she goes to a lot of the more high standard parties and stuff. And even in the theater, new costuming necessary for something she's playing, that kind of stuff. So I feel like there'd definitely be a tie there.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, I thought it would be cool if Sylvie does take part with making some of the costumes for the playhouse. I thought that would be, yeah. And maybe I was thinking too, maybe if your character is kind of a little bit more like fashion experimental, maybe Sylvie gives you the pieces that she's trying out, like to see if they look good or to see if they can be the next thing. She'll like give you stuff to try on and test out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely see that would be right up Vera's alley with her. Definitely her cup of tea.
And again, from what I understand about Vera, like being a fashionista is like exactly in her wheelhouse, and like drawing attention from people, getting a rise out of people. That definitely seems like something that fits really well with what you've told me about her.
Making sure someone else in the group doesn't get too much attention. Austin.
Well, I will say, like, the second that Guillaume finds out that Sylvie makes the clothes that you wear that get such attention, he's absolutely going there and saying, like, I want whatever it is you have given her.
Nice. Wonderful. Yeah, but she's so probably about 5'8", maybe 5'9", pushing 6 foot. And her hair it's naturally this deep auburn color. And because of her fashionista tendencies, she keeps black dyed streaks running through it. So she has this very kind of like streaky plated looking black and red hair thing. But the auburn is so deep that it's not it's not like Crayola red versus black. It's a much more deep tone there. And she has one blue eye and one green eye. And that's what I have about how she looks.
The talk of the playhouse and everyone kind of being involved there makes me wonder if Lox has maybe been roped into doing like a fight choreography for the productions there, as he's a trained swordsman. And I think that he has a love of the theater and probably enjoys being involved at least. So he might have been roped into that at some point, which would create sort of further connections between all of the characters.
That's
and
perfect.
he absolutely approached your character M because he probably rode into town with one outfit, which is just not gonna cut it. So
that's awesome. So in your mind, M, what would be who would be the cherry on the top as far as your clientele currently? Like how high up the social ladder is that person in your mind?
Ooh. I feel like she has made an outfit for someone in the court, like who.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, maybe once, maybe twice. And I think that was probably very recently that she has.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so maybe recently for a ball or something, you were commissioned to make something for like a It'd be like a visconde, which would be like a viscount, or a countess. Okay, cool. This is great. This is great. And the fact that all of you are connected again to also the theater, which there's also some fun stuff planned for, I hope. Yeah, it makes me so excited. The theater in question would be the Teatro Grandioso Maranisa. It's definitely kind of like the big draw theater here in Alidalgo. And it's run by a very interesting entity known as Melpothalia. And we'll meet them at some point in the campaign, I'm sure. But I'm super excited about all of these things tying together. So, yeah, I don't have anything else to go over. So if you guys have more stuff that you want to talk about with your characters or try to establish questions that you might have about either the setting or how things stand as we're entering the story, if not, we'll start looking at wrapping this up. No? Excellent. Okay. So I think that's going to be it for us this evening. I am very sad that I now have to wait a month to be able to begin this story. But I'm very excited. Very, very, very excited. And I hope I can make it through the next month. So thank you, the four of you, for hopping on this evening and doing the session 0 with me. Thank you for everybody who has tuned in and watched along with us this evening, whether you were live or you might be watching at some point in the future. Thank you very much. If you want to catch the rest of this campaign, make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button on this one if you liked seeing the process of this session 0. And yeah, stick around because there's plenty more to come. Love y'all, and we'll see you next time. And until then, may your dice roll high, and your snacks always be within reach.